Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pedro Soria. I come from the engineering division of Mafre Global Risk, and we are going to devote this hour to talk about the world of the future, and more specifically about the future in the energy sector. I'm going to start by introducing the speakers who are going to tell us, based on their experience, what the future of energy is and what are the challenges for managing risks. And I would like to wrap up by having a Q&A session, an open debate, to try to bring in more opinions. To your left, we have Yuri Rasega, who's the head of cybersecurity of Enel. Yuri is a real passionate person for IT in connection with businesses. 15 years ago, he landed in the world of cybersecurity, and around 3 years ago, he was appointed director of cybersecurity of one of the most important worldwide electric companies. Then we have Antonio Garcia, who's an industrial engineer. He started his career in what is now Mafre Global Risk in the division of engineering, and from there he moved to Repsol. Right now he is managing insurances for upstream Repsol. And lastly, we have with us Santiago Garcia, who's a real humanist, and he has had many experiences. And he has worked in the sector of energy, and he has worked in the sector of energy for 10 years, giving lighter to many electric companies. And he works in the field of renewables and maintenance management. So, what is the future of energy? Future is always uncertain. The future has always been a source of uncertainty, and it seems like nowadays the future is closer. The future seems to be perceived as something that was far away, but things are changing very fast. And when we talked about the future in the old days, it seemed like it was something that was going to happen in 100 years, but now it's going to happen soon. In the energy sector, traditionally, there was a division made between gas and electricity, but that division line has been blurring in the last years, and many oil companies have moved to the gas sector, and it seems like energy companies seem to be more and more integral in many aspects. And consultants, when they want to be funny, they say that the future includes 3 Ds. What are the 3 Ds? Well, the first one is decarbonization. We are all aware of the issue of climate change, and climate change is very much caused by the emission of greenhouse gases, and we are being aware that this needs to be changed because the world is in serious trouble. So there are a series of commitments, short-term commitments, and there's a hope that by the end of the 21st century there will virtually be no emissions. There will be no emissions because of renewable energies. When we think about this, we automatically think of wind energy, solar panels that will give us energy, but this energy can only be generated and consumed as long as it is produced. Storage is still one of the challenges. That energy that I can produce when I have sun or wind, how can I store that to use that energy at nighttime, for instance. The other challenge is diversification. Since new energy sources need to be sought, I need to find energy from under the rocks. Whenever there's a niche, whenever technologies or the geography help me make energy, well, we're going to have to get there and make energy and make it available for consuming it ourselves or to sell it. There's a paradigm that electricity used to be produced in huge plants that produced 500, 1,000, 10,000 megawatts in a series of hectares, and now it seems like there will be many different points that will produce or generate a few kilowatts. So there's going to be a diversification. And the other D accounts for digitalization. We were just hearing about blockchain. Yesterday we heard about drones. The future's here, and we are seeing how this diversification will make it necessary to integrate all of this, and then technology will allow us, well, technology and technology prices, the sensors are cheaper, the storage capacity and the calculation capacities, everything is cheaper, so these will help us to manage all of this. So without any further ado, I'm going to give the floor to our colleague Yuri. In this world that is increasingly interconnected and we have more and more agents and the political environment keeps changing, what are the threats and how are generating operational companies getting ready for the context? Thank you. Thanks, Pedro. Good morning, everyone, and Merry Christmas. Because of the climate, what's this weather about? This is climate change. We're having Christmas weather. I'm Italian. I will try to speak Spanish. I hope you don't take it as a joke. But I will make my best to speak Spanish. I also have issues. Well, if I have any problems, I will switch to English. But let's start with Spanish. Before talking about cybersecurity, which is a business issue, I'm here because cybersecurity, it's not a technological problem. It's not a problem of the people who work in the IT business. It's an IT problem. Let's talk about business. Enel, it's an Italian company. It was privatized in the year 2000. Before, it used to be the main Italian electrical company. Throughout the years, Enel grew due to investments, and now over 60% of Enel's business is outside the country of Italy. And next, it's part of the Enel Group. These are the names, the figures of my company. We have presence in over 30 countries in the world. We're present in 5 continents. And we have a generation capacity of 89 gigawatts. Half of this capacity is renewable, comes from renewables, which is not very frequent. Usually 15% of the total capacity of most companies comes from renewable. But thanks to green power, Enel really increased its renewable capacity. Demand response capacity. Then we also have 6.2 gigawatts of demand and response capacity. As Pedro said, in the future, the distribution of energy generation, well, if we see what the future is going to be like, the stability needs to be balanced with new capacities. Sorry? La pantalla? Sorry. Okay. Gracias. We have 73 million of end users. That is 300 million people who get energy at their homes thanks to us. To distribute this energy, we use over 2 million kilometers of electric lines. We also have 44 million smart meters. That's the largest facility in the world. Next year, it will be the 20th anniversary of the installation of these smart meters. It's easier to visualize these figures graphically. This is the representation of how much 2 million kilometers mean. It's 5 times the distance from Earth to the Moon. This means that we could have a spaceship counting our meters. To be swift, Enel is based on sustainability. Sustainability is very important for Enel. Sustainability is fundamental, not only because companies need to have sustainability ingrained within their growth plans, and otherwise companies won't be able to face the future. The renewables, our sustainability is the future because investors are increasingly concerned about sustainability. We have a main characteristic, which is that our CEO, our main boss, Mr. Staraje, is part of the United Nations Compact board. He's been elected twice to be part of this Global Compact board. We work on generation and distribution of energy. We have an integrated model, and in the world of value-added services with a new brand, NLX. We have a very important technological and a very complex technological footprint. When it comes to generation, we have thermal plants, big hydro here. This is a wind farm in North America. Here we have a small part of a solar plant in the desert of Atacama. And we have people who work in these 2 million kilometers of lines. What's the message? All this is computer managed. No one does things manually. Only maintenance is done physically. But for years, we have worked only based on informatics and computers, and this is very important when we think of safety. Here we have a smart meter plant, and here we have the future. Electrical vehicles that can work with smart batteries on the wheels to stabilize the network. All this is based on real-time technological, smart technology, At the end of the day, we also have to write to our customers. We have to send them a letter every so often, right, to say hi. We need to drop a line to our customers. So we issue about 4 million documents a day. The footprint of our technological footprint of our company is very large. I don't have the figures here or time to elaborate on this, but it's something very outstanding. Pedro already explained the energy transition. This is happening in Enel too. There's something very important, which is that Enel understood this transformation many years ago. We were talking about renewable, we already talked about our renewable capacity, which is a clear sign of this. This is the future: decarbonization, digitalization of services, urbanization. This means that more people are concentrated in cities, creating a concentrated consumption. The production of energy is decentralized, but people are becoming centralized. So, from a technological perspective, we need to deal with this issue. Technically, we have moved from a typical scheme where you had very large plants to small, social, sustainable, smart, renewable production. In this model, a huge company like Enel decided to transform itself, and to do so based on digitalization and using it not as a source for a total re-engineering of the processes. 3 years prior to the conference with investors, our investors are not typical digital people. So our CEO introduced this slide to our investors. Let's transform Enel based on digitalization, transforming the process with customers, turning our assets more technological, changing people's mindset. We need to change the mindset of 60,000 people. And the idea was to do this based on 3 pillars. Using cloud. Last month, starting last month, Enel became a fully cloud company. We're fully on the cloud. We stopped all our data centers. This is very powerful because it gives you an extreme flexibility having all your data on the cloud. We work with standard platforms and we implement cybersecurity. In 3 years, over 5 billion were made of revenues based on those 3 pillars. Clearly, cybersecurity, it's an issue. Our CEO talked to our investors and said, if we don't have security, we have an issue. Actually, this is a research made by Alliance, and security is one of the main perceived risks in our business, following business interruption. So the most important perceived risk is business interruption, and the second one is security. The problem is that attacks have changed with regards to the past. These used to be the hackers. They just wanted to show that they were very brave. Now we have these bad guys. They were very good. Here we have a problem of potential cyber warfare on critical infrastructure. This is the issue. This is a problem now. The president in this day we have already heard talking about deep web. Now hackers don't need to attack because they can buy in the e-business, in the deep web. They can subcontract attacks on the deep web. So hackers can subcontract attacks. Attacks are daily. Here we have a link that shows how attacks are happening. The approach needs to change. We have more of a preventive logic. Businesses have also changed, and the systems have been modified. there's no single server. There's a whole mechanism of download and distribution of data. The traditional IT world is working constantly with the industrial world, and that's a problem for a technological company because these two worlds that are constantly dialoguing have an original sin or original problem.
Plantas separadas, los productores del equipo industrial,
the producers of the industrial equipment have a computer to work with the system, but that computer, after 2 or 3 years, is obsolete. And that's very important because from the point of view of cybersecurity, we need to protect that world. Because security needs to last for years. We have two priorities. The traditional IT world has as first security, auto control, and availability as a priority. And OT thinks that in order to achieve this, we need to work with people with different capacities in one single group, because from the perspective of attackers, the company doesn't have any internal divisions. The company needs to be attacked as a whole, and the company needs to defend itself, trying to put itself in the attacker's shoes, creating one single model of prevention. In Enel, 3 years before, we analyzed the approach to cybersecurity following this model. It's risk-based. We have a risk-based strategy. We created technology, because without technology, nothing's going to happen. The priority were business priorities. That's basic. We have to work on security by design, working in projects before creating things. We need to, because creating and applying protections after the fact doesn't make any sense. Then we need to work on the awareness, because people awareness, because many attacks are on people. Enel's response was very, very strong. We created one single document with a global approach signed by the group CEO that defines all the cybersecurity processes in the group. These are the 8 processes that cover cybersecurity in our group as a whole. Identity management, assurance, design, and so on and so forth. This document is very powerful. We have a very lean organization. We have one single center with a very short chain to vortex. We have a strong contact with business and a strong contact with the plant. There's one single focus. We have attacks every day. There are people who make engineering projects for data protection, and we also have people who are devoting 24 hours a day to monitor what's happening, because the figures are very high. We created one single CERT, Cyber Emergency Readiness Team. We created agreements with the CERTs of other countries. These are the names of these are the figures of how the CERT contacts with other parts of the world. These connections are very important because attackers are very well organized, and companies, if they work in an isolated manner, won't do any good. We need to work in networks. In November, we inaugurated our new control room, and these are our figures. 1 billion events every day on our systems everywhere. 30,000 correlated events and 10 intelligence reports. To wrap up, these are the figures of one day in Enel. 80% of our emails are dangerous. 2.3 million every day, million emails. Every day we suffer over 340 attacks to our company's internet portals. 340 attacks. It's really incredible. And we don't really hear about it. Digitally, this is a disaster. Over 1,000 times a year, people create an internet domain that looks like Enel's to start phishing campaigns.
Last slide.
So sites that try to imitate Enel's are created. Let's talk about sustainability. Sustainability is so important that in cybersecurity we have a sustainability division. Sustainability is very important within cybersecurity too. This model approach to cybersecurity in a very integrated way, working together with business, was so innovative and so uncommon in a large company that in February this year, the World Economic Forum said that our model was an example on a world level. Thank you very much. I really hope that you could understand me.
I would like to have the next presentation, please. Now, we're going to talk with Antonio Garcia from Repsol, and we're going to ask him how an oil company integrated to explore in the farthest corners in the world goes to the customers, how they're adapting to these new changes and to these new times. And what about the risk, the management of risks is for the companies? First of all, I would like to thank Mafre for the kind invitation. I would like to congratulate you on the impeccable event that you are celebrating. The challenge is to express this in the time that I have. Without a doubt, we are facing a challenge. And the message I would like to convey is how complex this challenge we are facing, that the whole planet is facing and the world population is facing. Maybe we're going to see some issues that are capital and they're going to have to be globally faced. Companies, societies. I'm going to try to talk about many things, although the time is short. Mainly we're going to talk about the demand, energy, types of energies, how the CO2 is going to evolve, about decarbonization, that demand or that urge on the society to decarbonize and mobility issues. And I'm going to talk about what's the map route that we're going to have to follow to present things in an orderly manner. It's a pity that you cannot notice here, but there is a whole world behind those balls you see here. Is that there's going to be an increase in the demand, globally speaking, and that increase is going to be located in places it hasn't been before: China, India, Southeast Asia. And that's going to create a different flow than we were used to, a more diverse and quicker flow in terms of energy. So we can see now how China in 2040 is going to be the main consumer of energy. India is going to be third place. So in the short, medium term, we're going to see a disbalance in the order, as we used to call, that we are used to. In the graph on the right top, we can see power, red is oil and gas, the outer circle is the current scenario, the inner circle is the scenario that is planned or predicted by 2040, following sustainability models that we are going to see in more detail. All these graphs are from the International Agency of Energy, not Repsol, but generally there's going to be an increase in the demand. The use of energy is very important, not only transportation, that where we have the biggest amount of consumers, but there's also been an increase in renewable energies, not only in Spain, but worldwide, electrification. If you look at the energy mix, by 2040 it's forecasted that 40% of energy comes from oil and gas, mainly. So oil and gas are still going to play a pivotal role. Something I would like to stress down, with a decrease in crude prices, about $120 to $140, has created a fall in investments in production and investment in long-term projects of high intensity, and this is going to make possible this downfall, and there may be delays in projects with new volumes of crude and gas in the market. That balance in regions, and what we're witnessing right now is a debalance. These new scenarios of sustainability and reduction of CO2. There is an agreement from Kyoto, and we went to Paris agreement, where we are trying to stop the heating of the planet so that we do not exceed 2 degrees Celsius. And in order to do so, there are very ambitious plans to reduce CO2 and we try to combat climate change. How are we going to combat this? In the graph on the right, you can estimate that 80% is going to be through efficient thermal measures and renewable energy measures. There are 3 different speeds and 3 different approaches. Why so? Because the most advanced economies are going to increase their demand, decreasing emissions. In China and the rest of the world, they are going to need demand because they are growing up, they are developing, and reduction of CO2 is not a priority. A great part of the population cannot access to reduce CO2. They don't have access to energy. So this is going to create a disbalance that we will have to compensate for. As I said before, energy efficiency is going to be a key factor in all these renewable energies. These are realities. Down, you can see the example of an initiative. Repsol is member of this consortium. That fund has invested more than 1,000 million to study technologies and proposals to reduce the level of CO2 emissions and other energy efficiency measures. Unfortunately, there's going to be no magical solution, and what we are going to have to do is from all stakeholders, generation levels, consumers, mobility, that I will try to mention as well some aspects. All stakeholders will have to put their part, and it will have the role to play. We'll have to dramatically reduce CO2 emissions, and we have to increase the demand exponentially, and we have to keep on being profitable so that companies can still invest in oil and gas, in new renewable energies, in research and development, etc. So I've taken the map route of Repsol for this matter because I thought it was a good thread to follow. We have carbon intensity, tons in CO2 emitted by gigajoule of energy produced, and we need a reduction in that differential between the natural curve and reduction. We can find risks, the deviation risk from that plan, but then we have chances, and chances is an enterprise of oil and gas enterprise. Repsol no longer wants to be an oil and gas, we want to be an energy company. That's why we are having a great role in EU. Maybe upstreamers are more important, are the main producers, pure producers, but the trend in Europe is we want to change to provide solutions. We want comprehensive solutions for our customers. So how should this be done? In an orderly manner. We have an internal price of carbon for ton of CO2 that is part in all our analysis, and that's the price we're stating. This is not something that is standardized in a worldwide manner, but we consider this should be done in order to monitor and control this issue. Energy efficiency. Fuel has to be invisible. More than 25% of that reduction that has to be achieved will come through efficiency measures. We have to revise protocols, monitor leaks and small projects. So there is no one single magical solution, but we have to tackle this issue through different small steps. Another key factor to substitute carbon and go to that energetic transition, Repsol is working fine with gas. We consume a lot of gas in our industries and refineries and petrochemical aspects, and we believe that gas is going to be fundamental for that transition. Low emissions, businesses, wind power. That way we can reduce costs, and this is going to be what we are, the way we are going to implement our solutions. The acronym CCUS is the capture of CO2, which is another element that is going to play a pivotal role. This is an immature technology with some costs that cannot still be faced, but there are many companies that are working on it and many working projects. We should not only achieve a net balance of CO2, but what Paris agreements and other agreements are requiring from us is that we reduce CO2 emissions as the one that is produced by 2040. That is going to have negative emissions of CO2, and we're going to have to capture it, store it, and reuse it in a different manner. The commitments in our company, as I said, is something we've been working for years, but with our aims before us, we have to empower and accelerate what we are doing. We've been working from 2006 to reduce the tons of CO2 that are emitted. We have reduced 5 million tons. Our plan is from now on is to reduce 3 million tons a year, and methane emissions by 50% reduction. We also want to reduce torch by 50%. Those are measures that are not going to reduce CO2, but also are going to mean energetic efficiency. That's why, that's the way we believe that the industry is going to be able to face this challenge. This is a clear challenge, a global challenge, because we have to meet a demand with geography that are going through uncertainties. Mobility, that's another fundamental aspect for us, especially in Spain and Peru and the other countries. We have a network, a very big network of stations and commercial sector, and we cannot lose that. We cannot lose this electric car new wave. The problem is that there are no standards about electric cars. Nobody knows how they are going to be. Maybe Chinese are going to have this because they're buying everything. They're buying all minerals, all small technologies, but we don't know what's the standard is going to be, or the shape is going to be of electric cars. We know they're going to be used the same sources for the house, for your car. They're going to be more efficient with the storage and more smart use. As for digitization, it's another process that helps us in that energy efficiency to be more profitable. And of course, a technological boom, Repsol is taking part through the New Venture program. Takes part in many startups to see how they can evolve and how these ideas may evolve and these technological ways of thinking. Some successful cases I can present here in the recent years, how we have modified several aspects and we have reduced CO2 and we have been very efficient. And to conclude, thinking in what you were asking, what are the challenges in risk management area? There are many challenges to face. This business is international, will live in internationalization, that provides us with some risks in politics and other types about regulations and sanctions and complaints, and those thresholds that may present each country in a geographical manner. There are many economic risks, new acquisitions. I think that sector is going to be changing a lot. Credits, you need finance, you need green finance. And we're also going to face technological revolution, very powerful in terms of leaving carbon aside, new processes, etc. As I'm trying to describe in this picture here on the left, on the right, insurance have to be supportive, another element to make this transition possible. And they're going to face more diverse types of risks. And from my point of view, the sector has to develop new products and new solutions. Environmental solutions, offshore environmental solutions which do not exist up to this moment. Maybe they have to be more open to technologies that are in prototypes that still have not been proved. They have to help to de-acceleration of carbon, but in an orderly manner, not drastically. Or subscription. This is not power, and this is oil and gas. This is energy. So solutions are needed in a global scale. So Repsol is part of a mutual in Bermuda, where most big companies of oil and gas are also taking part, except BP and Exxon, among others, and they have a way to declare their values that is different from the regular market, to the trade market, where you declare your accountable assets in different sectors, and that mutual, which is purely oil and gas, or they also have mining and pharmaceutical, they have created a sector of renewable energy, of solar and photovoltaic, so that those assets are clear and present. Maybe that's the way to go. There is no single solution, but the input of infinite projects of transport, industries, etc., and mobility are going to have to play their part and will allow us to achieve what we want to achieve. Thank you so much. Finally, Santiago, you may take the floor. As you're an expert in maintenance, in this scenery where we're going to have technologies of generation that are obsolete or that are not going to be good in the future, they have to be present, they have to be needed, they have to work. And this sounds like conflict coming. So what do you think about it? I'm very glad that you're asking me this question. I just happen to have a presentation of this. What a funny thing. The future of energy, as we have been told by our colleagues, is decarbonization, electric generation, without other types of problems. Carbon is going to end up voluntarily with no greenhouse effect. Nuclear is dying by natural causes. So what is going to be remaining? Combined cycles. They will survive to this transition in energy that we're going through. They will survive for several years. But those combined cycles will survive as a backup, not as the backbone. And finally, the cogeneration will clearly survive because it is the only one capable of supplying thermal energy supplies that several corporations need. What will be the backbone of our energy system? 3: hydro, photovoltaic, and windy. The rest, biomass, will represent a very scant part, 15% or even less than 15%. So where's going to be the support? In combined cycles and peakers that are capable of providing these peaks of energy demand that windy and photovoltaic and other are not going to be capable. Mainly the problem is the demand of energy, and the production of energy has to produce in every second. If there is no matching, we destabilize the net. Frequency, tension, there are going to be changes. As we are not wind farms, and the consumer will turn on the light whenever they want to, what we have to do is to harmonize these moments. As the resource is not available, we're going to need electrochemical battery. This is not a competitive thing right now. It's very expensive, they're not always available. That's the problem for humanity. Depends on the development of storage system for energy, and this affects many fields, many more than you can think of. The development of drones depends on a battery that lasts longer, of your mobiles. When a bore that we have no battery and that we can no longer finish the day with our mobile working. Batteries need energy, but to have energy in our households, we need a system where we store energy that's been produced with the resources that we have available to consume it whenever we need it. We still need combined cycles, as I said, but these combined cycles are going to work very few hours a year. This is something that's going on between 2,000 to 3,000 hours. That functioning of 2,000 to 3,000 hours, the ways of degradation in a central that works for so little time are different from a plant that works for longer. There's correction degradation, there's degradation to start up and stop these centrals. So often, these centrals are not designed for that ways of functioning. Maybe we've been told they're very flexible, but they are not designed to start twice a day or to start once a day. They are not thought either to be stopped for 6 months. So those ways of degradation that were not present now are present. What are the consequences in this degradation mode that appear for the low use of these conventional energies that now are needed as a backup until the electrochemical batteries are developed in a profitable manner. We think that maintenance models have to change. Maintenance models now are based mainly on several stops. In a maintenance that has a systematic strategy that is about stopping the plant, and then try to start again, and that it doesn't stop until it's not planned. Then maintenance models have to be changed, and they have to change drastically. They have to get closer to what is maintenance models that are followed now in photovoltaic or wind plants, that is based upon the assets, the condition of the assets. Inspection is going to be the base, and not time period of functioning times, what is going to say, when do I have to do specific interventions or not. Maintenance strategies have to adapt to two different situations or face two challenges. First, we have new ways of degradation, and second, now as those plants are not so used, they are not so profitable, so we have less money to maintain them. So those scenarios, degradation of different nature and with less budget, either we adapt our maintenance. Another maintenance is not sexy, it's not appealing. After seeing drones and virtual reality, maintenance is like a ball. But think about the fact that anything we have requires maintenance. So behind there must be somebody compensating for degradation, the time and use have on materials. So what happens if plants are not adapted to these degradation models and adapt this maintenance into these degradation models? That is what happens to the owners of the plants and insurance companies, that we're gonna increase the risk of losses. Engineering departments of insurance companies then need to reorientate their work. If we talk about maintenance, for owners have to reorientate their strategies. Insurance companies will also have to do different things as they do now. First of all, they will have to audit their customers. They will have to audit the technical state where the facilities are, because now the chances are that degradation is taking place is higher. We will see how they are monitoring management. They will have to audit how management is taking place and how this is being protected. Those audits will also be used for something. I know several insurance companies. I exclude Mafre, of course. Mafre is perfect. But some audits where I take part sometimes is that they are useless. They are just as a way to fill in a form. But it seems that these audits do not have executive power. These are not the people that later on are going to determine what's going to be the prime, if there's going to be an insurance policy holder or not, if you're going to propose several measures that are going to be adapted. But they're going to be mandatory, so they must have an impact in the insurance activity. And we will also have to research on the losses, but not to see who was responsible, but we have to research what's going on and to try and avoid that these losses may happen again in the foreseeable future. That research will have to follow a methodology, as it happens in the sector of aircrafts. We will have to transform all the data into information, as it happens in this room and in the other one. Many times it seems the insurance company and losses and policy holds seems to be disconnected from prevention and safety and security. As it happens in many companies, even information is disconnected. It's not that information is going to be denied if you ask for it, but it's not easy. It's not something that you can automatize to access that information, to access those data that can help us to make decisions. So insurance companies also will have to integrate, embed their data, especially from losses in the world of energies, the field we're talking about, to obtain valuable information that can later on turn into decisions. This slide I'm about to present to you is very important. Read the message in it. Here's where you can applaud. I'm done. That's what I meant.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, Santiago, for your clarity and for your brevity, which provide us with some time to ask questions and start a debate. I don't know if anyone here in the room has a question or wants to make a comment, or you're welcome to ask anything.
Nadie quiere café. A ver. Venga, Antonio.
I'm José Manuel Herrero, and in Santiago I research on losses in machinery, and we're talking about assets and renewable and new technologies versus old technologies. Santiago, you had experience. How many companies are you familiar with that are certified by ISO 55000 of assets? ISO 9000, 14000, 18,000, but assets, to have a system or procedure of assets, how to implement life cycle, channel investments. In your experience, is this now professional, or are we still in an initial stage? I think the era is in the wrong place where you put it. I think there are two types of corporations that orientate their management. Some that talk about management and talk about the management of assets. Those that talk about management know what they're talking about. Those that talk about the other thing you're commenting, I don't know if that's clear. I don't know if that's an artificial word with ISO 9000, which are make-believe audits. It's about filling in things, but not making anything. I personally think that ISO 55000, which is a maintenance standard, from my point of view, with great respect, with due respect, everybody who believes in this as the Bible, I think this word, pure words, smoke screen, I mean, it's just, I believe blindly in something I do not believe, that I don't know what it is. I believe in the maintenance of equipment. I believe that we have to monitor equipment. Then we have to come to conclusions about how the conditions are. Starting from that, we have to take actions about what are the choices we have to make, what decisions have to be made, what should be changed. If there have been losses or problems in machinery, I totally believe that we have to inspect machinery and then make decisions. I believe in what is done in a generalized manner in wind plants and photovoltaic world. And I don't believe so much in ISO 55000, so I'm not capable of responding in clarity to your question. But well, this is you've heard my word. You heard what I had to say about it. Maite. My question is quite simple, but I would like to know better. You've talked about combined cycles and picker plants. Picker plants, what are they? A combined cycle, or is a combination of other types of methods? You can have pickers, is a facility that can start very quickly to provide an immediate response and increase the power immediately. Sometimes in seconds, sometimes in minutes they can start, but later on they can be full charge in 10, 15, 20 minutes. So they're capable to respond to a lower energy. This is a risk in the wind plants world. You can see in real time in some 5,000 megawatts can fall down in 20 minutes time. So we can lose 5,000 watts in very short time. If you have users connected, how can you compensate for that? Because if you do not compensate for that, then you have a zero. So you have to count with a mechanism that starts very quickly. Because plant pickers with gas turbine can start very quickly. How much, what will be the price of this picker energy? In California, it was $4,000 per megawatt, when the ordinary price is $50 an hour. So I think there will be many plants that will have to think whether they turn into a picker plant to supply
energy when the demand is very high.
Those speaker plants really need great maintenance. They are stopped most of the time, but whenever they're needed, they need to work. So that maintenance doesn't have anything to do with the maintenance that we do in other plants. The problem with current maintenance companies is that we're seeing how technologies and the conditions are ever changing, but people don't change that fast. So maintenance managers in the plants who are of a certain age, they're not young, they are reluctant to change. So we need a different response. We would need maintenance people who are under 40, and maybe things that require sturdiness, maybe we can have the people who are over 40, but people under 40 can have more of a tendency to make mistakes, they can be riskier, and they are good for some things. Sorry, the people who are older are good for some things, and the people who are younger may be more suited for this new type of maintenance that we need nowadays. Any more questions? I want to thank the speakers for sharing their experiences and their knowledge, and I want to thank you, the audience, for your attention. So let's go have some coffee. Thanks.